Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Dosage Calc with Jeff. Here to help you with all your nursing level 1 dosage calc needs. Before we continue, please be sure to like and subscribe and kindly help with my YouTube analytics. Also, if you have any specific requests for the future episodes, drop me an email or message me here with a comment. Let me know what content you'd like to see. So today we're going to look at a dosage by weight question. I'm not going to do the exact question. I really don't want anybody coming back to me and telling me that I'm cheating or whatever. So I changed up the question just a little bit. The topic is from the quiz number 4, but I did change up the question. You're still going to have to figure it out for yourself, but I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. So the narrative goes, a nurse is preparing to administer drug A, 30 milligrams per kilogram per day, PO, that's per oral, divided into equal doses every 6 hours to a child who weighs 70 pounds. Available is drug A suspension, 350 milligrams per 5 milliliters. How many milliliters should the nurse administer per dose? And I want you to round the answer to the nearest tenth. There are a couple of things that we need to look at when we see this type of problem. We're looking for a couple of keywords. Number one, we're looking for per day. So when a drug is saying that it's going to be given, this is the amount of drug, milligrams per kilogram per day, it means that over the entire course of the day, the amount of drug that should be given should not exceed 20 milligrams per kilogram or 30 milligrams per kilogram or whatever it is. So if the directions say 30 milligrams per kilogram per day, what that means is that when you figure out how many milligrams you're going to give, considering how many kilograms that patient weighs, you are not to exceed that amount over the entire day. That's a significant thing to pay attention to, because when you see that, that means that the extent of that medication should be administered is that amount over the course of a day. Now, if it's only once per day, then that's it. Whatever answer that is means that you're going to give that it, and then you're going to wait another 24 hours and then do it again, if the order calls for it. But the next part that we see, the next important part, is as divided into equal doses. Now, the thing about equal doses is that we only give medication like that when it's per milligrams per kilogram per day. It's always going to be in equal doses, unless it's something like insulin, but then it wouldn't be milligrams per kilogram. It would be, this is amount, how much you weigh, this is where your blood sugar is. It takes a lot of other things into consideration. But when it says milligrams per kilogram per day, and it wants you to divide it into equal doses, it's always going to be equal. So divided into doses is going to be really what you're looking for. Now, it says every 6 hours. That's the third part that we're looking for. We'll say every 6 hours, or in medical shorthand is Q6H. So when we're looking at every 6 hours, we have to think about a couple of things. How many times can you go 6 hours in 6 hour increments in a 24-hour period? Well, the answer is really simple. You just take 6 and divide it by 24. All right? So 6 goes into 24. That's 4 equal doses. So there's a couple of ways that you can look at this. In the end, you can take your final answer and divide it by 4. Or you can take this whole fraction right here, reduce it, which by the way will be 1/4, and multiply the entirety of the equation by 1/4. I'll show you that a little bit later. In either case, personally, I like multiplying it by the fraction instead of making another division line and trying to divide by 4. If you see every 6 hours, then put 6 over 24, and that will give you how many times you're supposed to be given that medication. You multiply it by 1/4. All right. So if it says, if the other one might say 4 times daily. All right. Well, 4 times daily and every 6 hours is the same thing. But sometimes the script will say 4 times daily, and sometimes it'll say every 6 hours. You need to know, mathematically speaking, that 4 times daily is every 6 hours. If it says 4 times daily, then you can just take a 1 and put that number of times daily underneath the 1, and there's your fraction. If it says every 6 hours, then you take every 6 and put it over 24. I know it sounds a little confusing. In truth, the best way is to just be, if you're having a hard time making sense of that mathematically, then the best thing to know is just that twice a day is every 12 hours. 3 times a day is every 8 hours. 4 times a day is every 6 hours. I guess you could go 6 times a day. That's every 4 hours, right? Let's see. I guess you could go 8 times a day. That's every 3 hours. But that's not really a thing that's going to happen. So, and then of course, 12 times a day is every 2 hours. Now, if you look at this, you can see something really interesting. It's the same order, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, but in reverse. So 2 times a day is 12 hours. 12 times a day is 2 hours. Those numbers are reversible. So if you can remember that, and if you're having a hard time making sense of it mathematically, then just do it like this. But in truth, there's a benefit behind learning why this is the way it is. If somebody says every 6 hours, out of a 24-hour day, you put 6 hours over 24 hours. And there you go, your fraction. It does turn into 1/4. It's best just to try to keep those rules in line. If you can do it that way, great. If you need to write the 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, then you can do that too. In either case, that's what you're looking for. When it says do this every 6 hours, then you're going to want to take that whole dose and divide it into 4 equal parts. Now, there's a difference. This is a PO drug, which means PO, which is per orum in Latin. It means literally by mouth. Okay? And so a by mouth medicine is probably only going to be given every so many hours. 6 hours, every 8. Hey, how about I write a 6? Every 6 hours, every 8 hours, etc. Over a 6-hour time period is referring to an IV drug. You want an IV drug to slow drip and finish over a course or a period of 6 hours. So you're never going to be giving a per oral medication over a time. Whenever you see over, that's always going to be referring to IV, right? If you say every 6 hours, then that's going to be once every 6 hours. That's most likely going to either be a per orum drug or an intramuscular drug or a suppository, whatever. Can't imagine you'd want a suppository every 6 hours, but whatever. So, and if it's an IV drug where it says over 6 hours, you're not going to be taking an IV drug over a full day, because orders for an IV drug are going to be given, typically, they're going to be given as a bolus. They're going to be given all at once. So when you see an IV drug, if it says, well, every 6 hours, over 6 hours, but you want it 4 times a day, well, then you would just set that as a 24-hour drip. Do you see what I mean? Like, you wouldn't say over 6 hours and then do the whole thing all over again over 6 hours and then do. No, it would just encompass the entire day. So when you see over 6 hours or over a time period, that's going to be an IV drug. If you see every 6 hours, it's going to be a one dose at a time, either a per orum or IM or an IV push. Okay, so let's take a look at this question a little bit more in detail. I'm going to erase all of this. We say a nurse is preparing to administer drug A, 30 milligrams per kilogram per day. There's the per day. That means over the course of the day, the drug isn't going to exceed, the administered drug isn't going to exceed 30 milligrams per kilogram. We want it per orum, PO, but it's by mouth, divided into equal doses every 6 hours. So we say Q 6 hours, which means that somewhere in my formula, I'm going to be including that fraction, 6 over 24. That's 6 hours over a 24-hour period, all right? To a child who weighs, here's my little patient, who weighs 70 pounds, okay? Available on hand is the drug suspension 350 milligrams per 5 milliliters. You can set it up like this if this makes sense to you, but this is a lot of work. Practicing this over and over and over again and over again, ad nauseum, will allow you to skip a lot of these steps and just put down the proper information. But you really have to do them over and over and over again. It's not a terrible idea. It's a really good idea. Just set some time aside so that you can do this for yourself. How many milliliters should the nurse administer per dose? So that's each individual dose, which is the total dose divided over 4 times a day, every 6 hours. So what we're going to look is we're going to say 30 milligrams per kilogram. All right. We see that the patient's weight is in pounds, so we are going to have to convert kilograms to pounds. Here is the patient's weight, 70 pounds, over my little dude. Let's see. 350 milligrams and 5 milliliters. We have milligrams on top here, so we want to put 350 milligrams down here to make sure that we have milligrams to cancel out. 5 milliliters on top. And then here comes my 6 over 24 fraction. All right. All of these problems are literally just multiplying everything by everything else, provided that you know what you're multiplying it, each individual thing. So let's look at this. We say kilograms is out. Milligrams is out. Pounds is out. You can put here 6 hours is 6 hours and cross them out. That's fine. That doesn't really matter. You just want the fraction to be in there. So what we're left with is 30 times 70 times 5 times 6 over 2.2 times 350 times 24. We're literally just going in order of the numbers. The only thing that we're left with is milliliters. That's what's going to be left out on top. So from here, open up your calculator, and 30 times 70 times 5 times 6 is 30 times 70 times 5 times 6 over 2.2 times 350 times 24. And the answer is 75 over 22. But we don't deal with those kinds of fractions. The final answer is 3.409 with 09 repeating. So we're gonna bring this up to the 10th place. So the final answer is going to be 3.4 milliliters. The same way, the problem that's on the quiz is solved in the exact same way. So I've given you the logic on how to do it. All you have to do is replace the numbers and make sure that the calculation comes out. Do it twice if you need to. But this is how you solve this problem. If you solve it like this, every time you will not fail. Thank y'all for joining me. Let me know if I can do anything, if y'all have any other questions, if you have any particular ones that you would like to get seen next. I might have a more time to do some more tonight if y'all need it. Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Bye-bye.